So I want you to do something for me, just a mental exercise, okay? Think about 5 friends. Think about 5 friends with whom you spend the most time. Think about this. 5 friends with whom you spend the most time. It can be in order of priority from my bestie all the way down to sort of bestie. Okay. Right? 5 friends with whom you spend the most time. You got their names in your head? Some of y'all are like, I'm picky, I only got 3. Okay, fine. That's okay. Let's do top 3 then. That's fine, right? Think about the 5 friends with whom you spend the most time. You guys got them? Got the names in your head? Or if you want to pull out your phones, you find your your text messages, right? Who's your top 5, right, texting friends, right? Yeah, maybe it's your friend. So if you're related to said friend, that's fine, okay? So write down, think of 5 friends with whom you spend the most time, okay? You got them? Everybody got at least top 3, top 5 in your head, yeah? Yeah. All right. Think about this. Did you have a choice about who those top 5 friends are? Who those friends are? Did you have a choice? I hear a lot of yeses. Did anybody say no? I heard a lot of yeses. Anybody say no? No parents like, be friends with him. He's good for you, right? Everybody say, yeah, you had a choice. Okay. If not, how might you choose differently if you did? If most of y'all said you did have a choice, did you find it difficult or easy to make a choice to be friends with that person? Right? Did you have a choice about those friends? I want you to think about those names, because no matter the circumstances of your friendships, how you became to be friends with that person or those people, I want you to understand that what we're going to look at today is a simple truth that is true for us in our whole lives, but especially now as we're gaining our independence and as teenagers starting to step out into relationships and friendships, that God can help us choose our friends wisely. God can help us choose our friends wisely. So this is the new series called On Your Own, right? It's the newest series in our annual teaching once a month, right? And for the next 4 weeks, I want to discuss how we'll choose, how we'll grow, how we will repair, and how we will expand godly friendships. How we'll choose, grow, repair, and expand godly friendships. Now, the subject of friendships is kind of like personal to me. I love talking about that subject, right? Cut me loose, I could talk for a year on it. I love it. So the next 4 weeks I think are going to be very meaningful. And because I really have been poring over this series, I'm going to stay kind of glued to what I wrote down, because I think that some of the questions and statements and comments and slides are going to be meaningful for you guys to hang on to. So have your phones ready, take some screenshots, go back again to the YouTube channel, listen up to some of the quotes, the nuggets, and again, some of the things that you see and hear. I think it's going to be meaningful, right? So we're going to talk about how to choose, grow, repair, and expand godly friendships, right? So if we're going to take the next month or so to talk about this, I want to take a moment to quickly define it, okay? To quickly define it. What is a friend, right? Now, most of us probably say, I know what a friend is. But by definition, a friend is to be fond of, to like someone, and that's like, it doesn't have to be like, oh, you know, he likes her, and that's like a romantic like. I mean, just you like somebody. And it's a person that you know and have a bond of mutual affection or care, right? To be fond of, to like somebody, a person that you know and have a bond of mutual affection and care, right? If you're fond of somebody, you like them. Like I said, it's not necessarily romantic. That's maybe a different term you might slap on that, like boyfriend and girlfriend, right? Is a friend, right? You say is to be fond of, right? Like, she's funny. He has a great fashion sense. They don't care what people think, so I like them. You know, we listen to the same music, watch the same movies, etc., right? A person you know and have a bond of mutual affection and care, right? That's my day one, right? Is that a term y'all still use? Is that old term? My day one, my ride or die, right? My BFF, my shoulder to cry on, my ear to vent. We got each other's backs, like, Somebody's starting some mess with me. I make the phone call. They got the ski masks and bats. No, nobody does that, right? This is my friend, right? My friend. I have a mutual bond of affection and care, right? And I think about, if you think about this, how deep that definition can actually go when you say this mutual affection and care. Mutual affection means you care for me, I care for you. It's mutual, right? It's shared, right? And remember, several weeks ago in the last talk that I covered with On Repeat, we talked about the one another's, right? You remember all of the one another's of the people of faith. Love one another, greet one another, pray for one another, be kind to one another, and so forth, right? There was 7 slides that I ran through up here of the one another's to do, and that's how you would be expressing that mutual affection and care, right, through the one another's. This is the understanding that's going to underscore the entire of the next series talks, right? Friendship. To be fond of, to like someone is a person that you know and have a bond of mutual affection or care. So, one vital aspect of friendships is the dynamic tension, right? This tension that you feel between chance and choice, right? Between chance and choice. On the one hand, the friends that we have, they seem to have been established at random, right? At random. And on the other hand, we do play a part in choosing the friends that we have, right? With chance, maybe we have a friend because they happen to go to the same school. They happen to sit next to us in class or at synagogue. Because our parents are friends, right? Because they grew up in the house across the street from us and were our neighbors. Or maybe they're on the same sports team, right? We didn't play a part in that choice. It just happened, right? Through the natural course of, we say chance, but we'll see it's divine orchestration, right? But chance, you didn't play a part in that, it just happened. And then there's choice, right? And this can be tough, maybe right now. Again, if I'm being honest, I was a little surprised that some of y'all were like, oh yeah, I had a lot of choices in all the friends that I have, the top 5. You know, because I feel like there's still parental oversight, right? Like if there's maybe a certain friend you want to have because you think they're cool, or you get along real well with them, or you maybe want to get into some of the stuff they get into, and maybe your folks are just like, I don't want you hanging out with so-and-so, right? I want you to be careful around so-and-so. So-and-so's not a good influence, right? There's that element in there. But there is still choice as you're gaining your independence and growing, right? And this can be tough right now, like I said, if your parents have some degree of control over your friendships, right? But when we get to actively choose our friends, we often pick people, listen to this, we often pick people to be our friends like based on gut instincts, first impressions, appearances, popularity, even curiosity, right? And we hope that in the long run that there will be people that we want to spend time with and who will also want to spend time with us, right? In other words, we hope that in the long run, these are going to be friends that we will maintain for a while. So if there's a degree of chance, randomness in it, your choice is not a part of it, right? And then also, even with your choosing, I mean, we don't know the future. You don't know the friends that you have now are going to be the friends that you have forever. How will we ever really build healthy friendships, right? And I contend that the way we do that, both now as teens and into adulthood, is that we have to use discernment. Who knows what's discernment? Who can give me their understanding of what the word discernment is? Isn't it like understanding? Okay, yeah, actually. It's part of the definition, understanding. In what way? That's a tricky one, right? It's tricky. Can you just read a book and be discerning, right, about the subject matter? Or is that just straight understanding, right? Anybody else want to take a crack at it? It's a tough one. There's no right or wrong answer. This is a learning environment. Yeah, go for it.
Like choosing between something.
Okay, choosing between something, but more specifically, knowing what to choose, which to choose, yeah? Okay, all right. Discernment. Why do you think the definition of discernment maybe is so slippery? And I would suggest that it's a little hard to define, right, Katie, like you were saying, is because there's a spiritual component in discernment. There's something that's kind of unseen and unknown about discernment. By definition, look at this, bless you. Discernment is the ability to perceive, understand, and judge things clearly, especially those things that are not obvious and straightforward. Especially those things that are not obvious and straightforward. Let me put it this way. You ever have a sixth sense, air quotes? Get a sixth sense about people or situations? You ever be hanging around with somebody and you're like, you don't maybe know the details about them or their life, or maybe you don't even know their name. You just met them. But you kind of like, I don't know if that person's cool. Or maybe the opposite. Man, I want to be friends with them. They're so awesome, right? How you know that? How you know they're awesome, right? You just saw their name tag. Hello, my name is Jim, and that's it. Like, well, you know about them. But there's something that's triggered, right? You say a sixth sense. Spiritually speaking, we call it discernment, right? And as you learn to grow and mature in your discernment, you get even more sensitive and intuitive about that, right? Or, again, you get a bad vibe about someone or something. Maybe you're in a neighborhood or you're in a scenario or a circumstance, right, where you're thinking, I need to get up out of here. This isn't cool. This isn't safe. This is not healthy, right? How do you know that without having all of the necessary facts? You're exercising the perception, the perceived understanding, right, to judge these things. You have discernment, right? So when it comes to our friends, and listen to this, whether by chance or by choice, we need to exercise discernment to know why God put a random friend in our life, right? Discernment. Why did I grow up on that block? Why did I go to that school? Why did I play on that soccer team to run into that person or persons, right? We need to exercise discernment to see God's hand at work in the randomness, right? As well, we need to exercise discernment when we're making choices about the friends that we have, right? Exercising discernment, because we need to understand that God can help us choose our friends wisely, okay? This is not always an easy subject to broach, and again, laying the groundwork takes some time, but I want you to understand that all of this leads you towards a dependency on God to help you choose your friends wisely. Now, my wife and I, we really like watching those like cake baking show competitions. Any of y'all ever watch that stuff? You know what I'm saying? Like where people bake a cake or cupcakes or cookies or whatever, and they're competing against each other to go up and win a prize. I don't know if you've ever heard of this called Is It Cake? Y'all ever, you guys ever heard of that one? Well, so one of the things I need you guys to stand in prayer about is videos never work for me. Y'all have been through my teachings a while, right? Every time I try video, it fails. We were going to watch a little 1-minute clip about it, but has anybody ever seen this Is It Cake competition, right, on Netflix? So basically, what they do, if you've not seen it or not familiar with it, they get a whole bunch of bakers who get into a competition, and they're trying to bake a cake that looks like a real object, right? They give purses, boots, in this case, rubber duckies. And so the judges come in and they have to assess, is it cake? Hence the name of the show, right? Is it cake? So looking at this, you would have to say, which of these rubber duckies is the cake? I don't know. I pulled this picture from online. I'm totally killing you. That's a Josh Ortiz fail right now, right? Okay. All right. So the idea would be they bake a cake, and then the judges place, it's 1, it's 4, it's 2 is the one I think is cake. And then the host of the show goes right up to the one that they chose, and they try to cut into it. And if it's real, it won't work. And if it's cake, it's with a knife right through, right? And then eventually you get all the way till you get down to the one person who wins the money for the competition, right? Is it cake? The outside of those cakes can really disguise whether or not it's cake. Hence the competition. Even expert judges have difficulty telling them apart. So, have you ever had a friendship end up like this? Where you made an assumption about someone, and then, listen close, you spent more time with them and you realized they were totally different than what you thought. Yes. Do I got more than one amen on that one? Yeah. Right? You spend some time with them and you realize, oh, you weren't the person I thought, right? And again, this is a point of passion for me, this subject, because if we're not getting the foundation for this now, you think it's hard to have a friend that all of a sudden ain't what you thought they were later? Yo, imagine you fast forward to a spouse who ain't what you thought they were and you're married. Or a job with a boss who promised you things and that boss ain't what you thought the boss was going to be, and you took a job that you thought was going to be totally different. I mean, this is an important piece of our growth, right? Or have you ever felt the pressure to appear a certain way on the outside? Amen, right? Maybe you work hard to mask the things that are happening inside so your friends won't know. Real talk. Anybody ever done that? Because I've done that so much. I bought the t-shirt, the crown, bought a home to live in with that. Like, yes, right? I put up the facade, right? Is it cake, so to speak, right? But what does it look like to choose friends who drop the mask, who help us grow closer to God and are honest with us, and to be honest too, like they're fun to be around. You like them, right? As part by definition. So let's look at some letters maybe that give us insight into what this can look like. Imagine for a moment with me, imagine this with me. Rabbi Sam was preaching the gospel, as Rabbi Sam does, out in the communities. And after preaching the gospel, he gets arrested and thrown in jail for preaching the gospel. Right? And after his court proceedings, he gets sentenced to probation and put on house arrest, even the little anklet. And while on house arrest, Rabbi Sam writes the following encouragement, and he says, no, I don't want the next generation of believers to be discouraged by my imprisonment. I'm going to write an email. I'm going to send this email to Mr. James, and Mr. James is going to read this to all of the HOI teens. And here's what it says. I'm going to read in my best Mr. James voice. No, I'm going to read in my Josh Ortiz voice. This is the email that Sam sends. Your life in the Messiah makes you strong. Do not do anything with selfish motives, being prideful about about how you will look. Instead, consider one another as more important than yourselves. Don't just look out for your own interests, but look out for the interests of others too. Do not think of yourself more highly than you should, but instead be modest and rightly judge yourselves. And when you love one another, be completely sincere and without hypocrisy. Hate what is evil and hold tightly to what is good. Love each other warmly as brothers and sisters in the Lord, and be eager to show respect for one another. Work hard and do not be lazy. Be hopeful and joyful, and be patient in your troubles. Pray all the time, and share what you have with other believers who are in need. If others are celebrating, then be happy with them. If others are crying or grieving, then grieve with them. That's also what it would have been like for the believers in Philippi and in Rome to hear from Paul, the apostle, when he wrote these letters from prison and from house arrest, respectively. Right? Paul instructs the listeners, and again, to extend our illustration, Sam would write to Mr. James in an email to say, love one another with the understanding that believers would be bonded through a love for the Lord and for one another, right? Again, there's those one another's, those 7 slides we clicked through last talk, right? All of the one another commands that are in Scripture for us and how we live amongst each other and deal with each other as brothers, as sisters, as friends, a mutual bond, right? And this aligns with our definition. Does that mean that all of your friends have to be believers? Okay, I see. The first head shake I saw was yours, and it was a no. No, all of your friends do not have to be believers. Why? Do you want to answer that? Okay, so everybody's different, even if you don't share the same beliefs or moral convictions. Okay, okay. Do you think it might make it more difficult to be a friend to them over time or have some depth of friendship? Oh, yeah. Yeah. There's some people she's saying that are believers, and then they say they're believers, but if we did the cake test on them, right, don't cut them. If we did the cake test on them, we find that maybe the inside, right, is not lining up with the outside. Okay, all right. Anybody else want to give an answer to that? Do you think that all your friends then, by what we're saying here, this is a runway leading up to a point, is that point that all your friends have to be believers? I hear another no. Who said it? Okay, go for it. Why? If all your friends are believers, it make it harder to share the word, right? Because, in other words, to evangelize, to share the gospel, right? To share the faith. You're not necessarily sharing it with people who already believe it, right? Who've received it. Okay. It takes away some evangelism opportunities. Okay. I contend that all of your friends, kind of like Elijah was saying, do not need to be believers, right? You don't have to have all your friends to be believers. Now, before they go back to the video and do a hot take, or before everybody starts running back to your parents and Josh Ortiz says, we can befriend the heathens, like take a chill for a minute, right? The answer is no, you don't have to have all your friends be believers, but, and please listen here, our closest and most meaningful friendships, the friends that we have maybe at the tippy top of that top 5 list, right? They are going to be people who also love the Lord and journey with us to help us follow Him together, right? You might have a long list of friends, but when you start getting toward that top 5, top 3, they're going to be the people who love the Lord and journey with you to help you and you them to follow the Lord together. I remember when I got saved, some of y'all have heard my conversion story before, but when I got saved, I was in Florida with some other friends that I grew up with. I went to visit them for a month and stay down there during summer vacation in high school. And I was down at a church there, and I received the Lord at an altar call and got saved. And I remember my prayer being, Lord, if I go back to Jersey, and is that locked? If I go back to Jersey and I associate with all the same friend group that I left, I will fall right back into the same life and habits. Anybody ever feel like that sometimes? I said, Lord, if you don't hook me up with some new friends, I'm going to go back to the old friends and the old ways and the old attitudes. Right? And so that was my prayer. And there was 2 things that kind of stood out to me. And again, some of it was chance and some of it was choice. The first thing I did was when I got back to high school, I don't know if some of y'all have this. If it's homeschool, you probably have something a little different. In high school, maybe you have it, I don't know. But I found in my high school the Bible club. You know the Bible club in your high school? Does anybody have one of those? Right? This is the South. We probably got like 20 Bible clubs. Right? Anybody have a Bible club? Well, I found the Bible club in my high school, and I remember like walking into like the after school, like, Bible club gathering, and I seen like a handful of my friends, like that I already knew. And everybody was like, yo, you're a Christian? I was like, you're a Christian? It's like, so now all of a sudden we're having this like moment of, oh, you're a believer? Oh, also I'm a believer now? And we shared that. And it was a little bit sobering, right? Because some people, you didn't even know that they were believers, right? And others of them you knew, and I didn't expect them maybe to become friends of mine. And I gained a whole handful of friends just by making a choice to be a part of that Bible club. Another time, I was walking right in the downtown, right outside of my high school, where we often went to cut class and buy pizza. But in this time, I was walking home from school. On my way home. And out of one of the stores, as I'm walking down the main street, out of one of the stores comes this guy. And if you guys remember me several weeks ago, remember I told you the story about Melvin, the guy who asked my buddy, said, do you want to go down and make the the salvation prayer. I don't know if you remember that story I told you. Well, that's my buddy Melvin. Well, he is coming out of the store, and I had not seen this dude in years and years and years. He comes out of the store, and he's like, Josh Ortiz? I'm like, Mel? What? We hadn't seen each other, so we ran to each other. We said, oh my gosh, what a random chance run-in. And from that moment forward, we became friends. He was friends with my sister and like her circle of friends, but he knew me. But we became friends at that point. And I shared with him, hey man, I became a believer. I just got saved. And he was notorious. Listen to this. Him and his brother were known as the Sons of Thunder in high school. Y'all know the Sons of Thunder reference like in the Bible, right? They were known as the Sons of Thunder. Why? Because they were preaching the gospel and praying for everybody, and everybody knew if you went around them, don't use swear words, and you're going to hear about Jesus, right? They understood that was what was going to happen. That was just the people. So now I run into this guy at random after years on the street, and all of a sudden I knew that the Lord was giving me another friend. And both him and his brother were a part of my early discipleship, all because I understood that there was chance, there was choice, there was discernment, and there was God at work in all of it to make sure that my friend group was curated by him. Right? But it's not always about who we choose. And this is where it gets sticky here, y'all. It's not always about who we choose to have as friends. Sometimes we have to make a choice about who we let go. Now, I want to make sure I'm not using the term who we cut off, right? But who we let go. And I also want to be clear that this is not a falling out. Like, oh, I let that person go because she said something this way, or he, said this kind of thing, or this, whatever happened between us, so we fell all the way out. Forget that dude, right? This is not a falling out. In week 3 of this talk, we're going to talk about repairing friendships. So this is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like the active choice to say, I need to allow some distance or fully dissolve that friendship, right? There will be people that you choose as friends now that over time you come to realize are not who you thought they were, and it's not a healthy relationship. You know that if you keep that friendship, you will be less likely to grow in the Lord. Please hear me on this. You realize that probably you made the wrong decision about the friend, right? You made the best choice that you had to make at the time, right now, with the information you had. But as you grow in the Lord, you get more wisdom and you gain discernment, you are now obligated, empowered by God to make a better choice, right? You made the best choice at the time, but today maybe is the day you make a better choice, right? So what might that look like? What might that look like? The first thing is you live life, right? What does the letting go of a friend look like, right? What does the distancing look like? First and easiest kind of is you live your life, right? Normal life happens. You move, you change schools, you leave the sports team that you're on and friends with those people, you get a job, you go away to college, things like that happen. That's normal life experience. That's the normal course of your living, right? And your friend groups, when that happens, will change. And so some friends you'll grow apart from because of those natural life circumstances, right? And so when that happens, and you know that that's a friend that needs to be let go, let life take its course and let them go, right? Another one is you start drifting. Maybe you're still in the same kind of circles, right? You didn't move or change jobs or something like this. But as you follow the Lord, some of your friends simply drift away because they don't share the same interests anymore. What do you mean? Well, you decide to do your homework instead of being logged on to video games until 2 a.m., right? Or you pass on a party invite because maybe you know the kind of party that you're going to be attending, and you want to spend some time actually helping your parents out to finish a project and honor them in doing so, right? You're just naturally going to drift away from those friends, right? When I got saved, me and Melvin used to just get videos of like sermons that were really, really powerful. And we were like, yo, we're just going to get together and start watching some messages at the house. And we would call all our homeboys, like saved or not saved, just like, yo, you want to come over? Yeah, what you doing? We hanging out. We watching a movie. You want to come? Yeah, okay, I'll be there. Bye, click. Then they show up to the house and they're watching sermons. And we watched some heavy Pentecostal stuff. I mean, they got the gospel. Yeah, ha, they got it. And they were exposed, right? And that's just what we did. But those friendships naturally started to drift because they were like, well, okay, yeah, what you doing? You hanging out? Oh, you watching a movie? Yeah, you want me to come over? I gotta wash my clothes. So just naturally they started to disassociate because they just weren't interested, right? It wasn't their time maybe to receive the gospel in that moment, right? And sometimes you may not even be included in things because people start to recognize that your new interests as a believer don't align with theirs. So maybe you don't get invited to the party or get included in the social cliques because they know, he's into that Yeshua stuff, or she's messianic. I don't even know what that is, so don't bring her around. It's too many questions, right? You live your life. You start drifting. What else? You set boundaries. This is big. This is real big. You set boundaries. If you don't know how to set boundaries now, it will plague you for the rest of your life. Trust me. You set boundaries. You make it clear to your friends what you are and what you are not willing to do and say. Now, that can be an awkward conversation. Let's be honest. It can be a very awkward conversation. And it can be kind of scary, right? Because you have to take a stand for who you are and how you live out your faith, right? But God will always have your back. And for the most part, I've seen, and I think you will agree, that for the most part, your friends will respect you for it. And it's the old adage that say if they don't respect you, then they shouldn't be your friends anyway, right? They ain't real friends anyway, right? So here are some questions I think that you can ask yourself to help determine your boundaries as you're getting to set them. So remember, what this might look like, you live your life, you start drifting, and you set boundaries, right? Well, now I want to give you 4 questions that you can ask yourself to help you to set boundaries. 4 questions that can help you set boundaries. Who does God say that you are? Right? This may sound cliche or even overused in a faith community, but who does God say you are? Listen here. God says that you are loved and you are good, but you are not perfect. God says that you have a purpose, that you have value, and you have security in Him, right? So, do your friends treat you in ways that align with what God says you are? But do your friends need to know about who God says that you are, and how can you tell them? Right? Number 2, a second question I want you to ponder for boundary setting. What's important to you? And right now, I mean, honestly, I always make the joke. As I get older. I'm like, man, when I was a teenager, I used to talk about like cars and girls and having fun. And now I'm talking about like kids and mortgages and like life insurance policies, right? The conversation will change, right? What's important to you will evolve over time in terms of how life happens, right? But you have to begin to start jotting down, understanding, thinking about your priorities, right, as you follow Yeshua. And what values, listen, that you are unwilling to compromise, right? What boundaries do you want to set based on these values, right? Good friends will honor your boundaries and priorities. So tell them, this is a big one, tell them what's important to you. Tell them what is important to you. A third question, when do you feel uneasy, right? Which specific scenarios or social gatherings kind of give you a pit in your stomach, right? Telling you maybe you shouldn't be there. Again, like we said early, maybe you shouldn't be around this person or involved in that situation or that activity. Tell your friends about that and ask for their support. And last question for setting boundaries. Where is it difficult to follow Yeshua? Where is it difficult to follow Yeshua? This is geographic as well as social. Are there specific scenarios that pull you away from God and who God calls you to be? What scenarios or places in school or online do you need to avoid? Tell your friends about them and ask them for help in finding alternatives. I want you to think about the characteristics and the words that you would like to describe you, right? And think about your dreams for the future. We may be tempted to shake off boundaries, but when we think about the big picture, And why those boundaries are important. We'll be more likely to prioritize those boundaries in our friendships. Right? What boundaries do you need to set with friends who follow Yeshua and those who don't, so that they aren't derailing you from continuing to be who God's called you to be? How can you be that type of friend to others? Now, I think everybody would be looking for, criteria. Saying, well, is there a checklist I can use? Like, oh, Miss Natalia, you'd be a great friend. She loves the Lord. She prays. She's a Buffalo Bills fan. Check, marry her. That was my list. No, it wasn't my list. But, right, everybody's looking for maybe some criteria. I'm going to give you all a piece of paper and a pen. And I want to do an activity that you're going to walk away with a piece of paper at the end of this activity that is going to have a list of criteria of things that you want to see in friends and things that friends want to see in you. Just give out a piece of paper to everybody. Good? A piece of paper to everybody. And here's what I want you to put on that paper, y'all. Okay? This is what we're going to do. We're going to write one quality on that paper that you look for in a friend. One quality. One quality that you look for in a friend. And then you pass the paper to the next person. And they do the same thing, one quality that you look for in a friend, but you can't repeat what's already on the paper. Can't repeat what's already on the paper. And we do this until the paper makes its full circle and you have a list of qualities that people are looking for in you and looking for in themselves. Everybody on that piece of paper, listen close, everybody on that piece of paper now has several words, right, of qualities that others are looking for in friends, yeah? All right, so keep this and begin to use it as you're constructing criteria through scripture reading, through lessons and so forth. Add to this list on your own, as well as review it, because now you know what people are looking for as friends to be and as friends to have. Yeah? And there are some repeated terms, I think, on there. So as we know, kindness probably should be on every paper, right? Being rich may not be on every paper, but that's okay. Got some friends that got some money. It's okay. All right. In that note, as we continue in this series, right? As we continue in this series, we're going to be discussing friendships. And again, today we want to make sure that we're understanding that God will always guide us to help choose our friends wisely. And some of that wisdom is exercised in the criteria and qualities that you have in your hand. Yeah? All right. Father, I thank you for this time. Even among the chaos, you can be God. I pray that you would bless every heart in here, and every seed that was sown would grow up to be fruitful, and that every teen in here would grow to be more like Yeshua the Messiah. We ask this in your name. Amen.